Thank you everyone for joining us. I want to make sure that you see my screen. Welcome, How to Sell Digital Advertising in 30 Minutes. Whether you came to learn how to start and close a deal in 30 minutes, or you wanted the core content in about 30 minutes, we're going to do the absolute best that we can. I think we're going to deliver on that. We are going to switch a little bit around from the agenda. So the agenda, we kind of go part one, part two, point three. Part one and part two are the core content, and me and Nat are going to do something a little something that we've never done before, which we're going to do an ad sales role play. Because sometimes you get the academic version, the how-to, but then hearing how it all comes together in a little bit of a role play might be fun. So we're going to do that. Before we get started, let's drop our name and location in the chat. Just see where everyone's coming from. So, and it's also a good idea to get used to that Zoom chat function. So if you have questions throughout the webinar, drop them in the chat. We're going to take most questions at the very end, kind of that 140 mark or a little bit beyond that. Just where are you from? Name and location in the chat. All right, I'm Kenny. I'm from Red Bank, New Jersey, publisher of redbankgreen.com, creator of Broad Street. And we've got Annette at Montclair Local in BaristaNet. Thank you for joining us, Annette, by the way.
You're very welcome. Happy to be here. Lovely Montclair, New Jersey. 12 miles west of Manhattan.
Awesome. And so we got Amy from Colorado, Chris from Ontario, Daniel from Tennessee. We got a lot of people.
South Carolina, Massachusetts. Yay, California, Santa Barbara. Love that.
Denise, Orlando.
London. Hi, London.
Tom from New Jersey, Tom Marshall, New Jersey Monthly, I'm thinking. Unless there's another Tom from New Jersey. Virginia, good to have Virginia.
Hi, Virginia.
Oh man, Deb. We got Deb from the New Jersey Monthly team, perfect. We got lots of folks. So we got Barney. Hey, what's up, Barney, out in, on the West Coast. And lots of folks. All right, cool. All right, next thing we got to do is make sure that my slides are going to click through over here. So just one second. All right, cool. So thank you, everyone, for hopping on. Oh, Rick. All right, so good to have you, Rick. So something about today, we've got lots of people. Tell me, what's our attendee account right now? 371. How many do we have on the call right now?
189. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to go ahead and get started. Thank you for hopping on. Like I said, we're going to get through the core content in about 30 minutes, do a little something toward the end, how to sell digital advertising. So today, really, how to close an inbound sale, which is the simplest form of selling an ad, and how to close an outbound sale. A little bit about myself. I'm Kenny Castro. I'm the creator of Broad Street. I'm also the publisher of Red Bank Green, hyperlocal that's been around for about 17 years. Formerly an engineer at Yahoo, Mozilla. I also did a little bit of time at Automatic. Some of you might know Automatic makes WordPress and also Newspack. From Red Bank, New Jersey, I'm a dad to two boys, Ken and Will, most optimistic duo on the planet. And today with us, we have the lovely and wonderful Annette Batson, who's been a guest on many of our webinars and presentations. Again, thank you for joining us, Annette.
You're very welcome. Glad to be here.
All right. So my promise to you today is that I'm going to make this practical and easy. You know from our past sales webinars that sometimes we get a little high level, right? Sometimes it's a little more philosophical, and that's important because anybody that's going to buy an advertising, well, they're not really buying advertising. There's a place they are and a place they're trying to get to. And we spent a lot of time on that. But today's going to be very practical, actionable, tactical. We're just coming up with rhymes earlier. But something that's really
quick. I would say there's a good reason because a lot of our potential advertisers don't have the time to talk a long time on the phone. So we're going to cut right to the chase on this webinar.
Yeah. Talk about how to close it up, or like shorten that sales cycle. But something that's really important. When Broad Street started in 2012, we actually had a free tier, and that's where most of our publishers were. In 2016, it was still a one-person show, right? And we kind of had to make that decision. Me and a couple of freelancers, we had to make that decision to put in minimum pricing for Broad Street, and we have not had a free tier in 8 years. So Hitchhiker tier is our first free tier. If you guys would like to sign up, if you're not already a Broad Street customer, go to broadstreetads.com/hitchhiker, and it's a special tier. We have access to one ad format that me and Annette might use later on in the webinar. So when we do that little role play, I might use it to show how you can use it. Our goal is to give as many publishers a lift as we possibly can. I want as many publishers out there using Broad Street stuff and making sure that those budgets are going to them instead of Facebook and Google. And our customers attracting those advertising budgets, not Facebook or Google. So bringing some of what we do to anybody. It all starts with this. This is a real email from a small business owner. So this is from Joe. You can tell it's actually from a small business owner because he says, I'm interested in your advertising rates. Thank you. Concludes the email, and then he opens up again. By the way, my name's Joseph, and it's for Bagel Station, Mama Street. What do we do? This question right here, I'm interested in your ad rates. What do you do? Annette, what do you think?
Well, the first thing you read out of this is he's clueless, doesn't know anything about advertising, and needs a lot of help. So you hop on the phone immediately and start talking to this person.
We don't know. Maybe, I don't know. I think if you're new to this, you might think, well, maybe he does actually know about advertising too, because he just wants the rates. He's all business, right? So this is the simplest kind of ad sale when they come to you, but this guy might be all business. I'm just kind of curious, in the chat, just drop, like, what would you do in this situation?
I just think that someone who says, just send me your rates, really doesn't understand advertising, because it's not always about rates. You know, that's not the most important question when you get down to it, but that's our job to tell them that.
Cool. So Todd says no phone number, so call him back. Debbie, call him. Jason, I send my sales rep, immediately look up their website, check them out. Good idea.
All good ideas.
Oh, yeah. Send them the media kit, book a call, check out Bagel Station online. All right. So we got some good ones, some research. Cool. So we're going to talk about what to do here. But first, we're going to talk about some roadblocks in terms of the ad sale. So again, just in the chat, things that might impede us on the way to making this sale happen, whether it's immediately or something that's going to happen. Money. If you get to the part of the sales conversation where it's time to talk about money and how much things cost, and you kind of hate that part of it, just drop money in the chat. Because I know personally asking people, getting to that, so how much is this all going to cost? Eek. I was killing it up until that point of the meeting. Then they asked about money. Oh man, that's tough. Next, media kit. All right. If you feel like you would like to do more sales, but you just got to get your media kit in order, and that's kind of like the bottleneck, it's holding you back. This is an interesting one. And by the way, I'm doing a webinar with the Center for Cooperative Media tomorrow. And Tommy will drop the link to that in the chat. But it's all about media kits and how to put together a simple, understandable, and unique media kit. So if you feel like the media kit is holding you back, just drop that in the chat, or the word kit, if that's easier. Got Rich. Oh, yeah. Andy, media kit, all caps. David, Sarah. All right. Michael, Laney, Sheila. Yeah, that's a big one. All right. How about this one? This is a classic. I don't care how long you've been in sales, how good you are at sales. All right. If you've done all the work to try and make a sale happen, it seemed that yes, yes, yes. This was a slam dunk, and then they ghost. Anybody run into some spooky ghosts? Right? They won't email me back. What's going on? So if you run into a ghost, just drop ghost in the chat. That's a classic. Perfect. Lisa, everybody. Okay, cool. So thing about ghosts is that you can't make them go away entirely, but there are some things you can do to bust those ghosts ahead of time. So, all right. So back to our email with Joseph. Hello, I'm interested in your advertising rates. My name is Joseph. It's for Bagel Station. What do we do? All right, before we talk about what to do, let's talk about what not to do. Don't screw it up. What are some of the ways to screw it up? So, all right, in the chat, and I think this will probably our last chat bit for just a little bit. But what are some ways we could just totally fumble this thing? There we go. Just send the rates. Do what he asked.
Exactly.
Do what he can't do that. That's the last thing that we can do is send him the rates. Ignore it. That's a good way. That's a great way to actually not make this sale, is ignore it. Thank you for that, Debbie. That's perfect. Rose, Rebecca, David, yeah, send the rates. So everyone's basically saying whatever you do, don't send the rates.
Comment about the terrible customer service you got when you ate his bagels. Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so we have some.
I like humor.
We got some real sales folks on the call. All right. So basically all the things that you can do to screw this up, and there are lots of them, they usually fall into one of two categories. First, you ask them to think. The second you ask someone to think and kind of figure out, you send them the rates, then what does you got to do? You think about, well, which thing do I want? What does that mean? What am I getting? I have more questions. And as soon as you ask them to think, they kind of get frozen. So if you're asking someone to think, there's a good chance it might ghost, right? And then you got to follow up. You say, hey, did you get that? The second big thing, you ask them to work. You say, oh, fill out this form. Have a look through this, right? Or you ask them like, hey, can you describe what your marketing goals are, right? I understand why. That's a good question. It's just difficult to ask them by email because then they got to work. You know what they're going to do? Because they're probably looking at this on their phone. He almost guaranteed sent that from his phone. Almost guaranteed. And if you make them work, then probably going to ghost because then they're going to think, oh, I'll get to this later. And with small business owners, later never comes. Literally never comes. Anything they say, I'm going to put this aside, I'm going to do it later, doesn't happen. It's just true.
Yeah, I think when
would you agree with that on that?
When emails come in like that, I tend to hop on the phone immediately because you're front of their mind and they've just reached out to you and they are so shocked to get an immediate response. But then you've got them you've got their attention. So, timing is critical too.
Oh, whenever totally. Possible. Yeah, I mean, it's hot on their mind right now. Yeah. So really, as much friction as we can possibly remove from this thing. So this is what it looks like. How to make them work or think. Here are the rates. The rates are attached. Number one thing, don't do that. The thing that they asked. What are your marketing goals? What's your budget? Look at my media kit. Fill out this form. The list goes on and on. So don't do that. Just some little facts. If you're new to this and you don't know about small business owners, they are busy. They usually don't know anything about digital marketing. It's really rare to run into somebody who knows about digital marketing. Even if someone is the VP of marketing or the CMO or the head of marketing, you think they might have this down. No, marketing spans a lot of different areas. And digital is something that a lot of companies just have a tough time cracking. They really do. They might run some campaigns and they get clicks and stuff like that, but they're not actually tracking whether it really works. That's something that even Broad Street, a company that really specializes in digital advertising, like when it came to our marketing, we weren't tracking someone all the way through the funnel for a little while because it takes some work. It takes some technical expertise. So your local organizations or in B2B, if you're dealing with or you got a B2B publication, your advertisers may not know much. So you have this idea that they're the expert, but they're super busy and they don't always have a good idea of what they're doing in terms of digital marketing. Yeah, and one thing I will tell you though,
not to demean the small business owners, that's 90% of my business in Montclair, but they just, like Kenny said, they're so overwhelmed managing their business that they don't have time to think about some things, and they are just going often based on information that they get on the internet or they hear, oh, let's do social media. They don't really understand if it's effective or not. So that's where you come in as the expert and the consultant.
Totally. So I will tell you this, they have marketing budget, they do, and even the businesses that don't have marketing budget, they do have money, right? If they find someone that they want to work with or something that they believe in, they will find the money. Like if you ask Joe, for example, hey, what's your budget? He'd be like, I don't know, just tell me what I should be spending, right? And then he'll go find the money. That's how it works. Yep. Right? If they really believe in it, they're going to do it. So it's only when they're bigger, more established organizations might they have a formal marketing budget. So they got money. They do not have money to waste. And if we want it, then we have to remove all friction to this sale. We got to make it as easy as possible for them to spend money with us. So back to our email. Got back to them. This is a real response. We're going to get back to them in a second. So we're getting to the second part. What do we do with that email? We're going to give them a lift. So this is our system for selling ads, Lift, L-I-F-T. We'll go through each segment, but the first thing we have to do, and many of you in the chat said something along these lines, we have to listen. We have to talk to Joe, and we got to understand some things about why he wants to advertise, right? So the first thing we're going to do is going to get him on a call, get him talking. Right? Anytime someone's interested in advertising, we got to listen to them first. It's gonna be very difficult. I like the call because it's gonna be very difficult to do this by email. So I said, hey, Joe, this is Kenny from Red Bank Green. John forwarded me your email. That's actually how he came in. I saw that you're into advertising. Personal note, I dig Bagel Station. I love it. Used to be there all the time before catching the train when I used to take it into the city. And mind sending me your number and a time when you have a minute to talk. And I give him my number there. Call me back pretty much immediately. So where to go from there? So when you listen, right, anytime that someone reaches out asking about advertising, there is a reason that they wanted to do that. And it's my job to figure out how, and also to really just explore and gather as much information as I possibly can. So we got our like little cheat sheet of questions that you can ask here, but I usually start a ad sale conversation. So tell me what's up, what's going on? And I just leave it at that. Silence is golden. Just let them answer the question. Sometimes I ask how they got started, how they start with the business. I also like to ask, hey, what's something you do really well that nobody knows about? And these questions, I know we're talking about bagels right now, they apply to all kinds of different advertiser verticals. What's something that you've seen a competitor get attention for and you think you do it better? Anybody who's been in business knows that feeling. Hey, they're getting all the press, they're getting all the hype. What about me? And this is actually, it should be higher in the list, one of my favorite questions of all time. What are some questions you get from potential advertisers, potential customers? What are the things that are asked about the most in the industry, right? And I love this especially for people who are interested in looking like an authority or an expert. So real estate agents, for example. In fact, you can see one on the top right of Red Bank Green, a guy named Chris Havens. I said, what are the questions you get the most from people who are interested in real estate in Red Bank? He says, well, it's people who want to know like how much is my house worth? They want to know how they can get into Red Bank real estate. And what was the third one? It's not Red Bank Green. And he gave me 3. And that became the basis of the campaign. So we're listening, we're gathering as much information as we possibly can. This is the biggest part of the lift system. I also like to ask, like, what have you done before? Where have you tried marketing? How'd that go? They've almost always tried marketing before. And if they are marketing, if they're a little bigger, how are you guys measuring results? How do you decide that it's actually working out for you? So we're listening. This is actually a fantastic bit of advice from Larry Lipkins, who trained our sales team over at Broad Street, one of my favorite sales trainers ever. She said the person asking the questions is the one in control of the conversation. You ever get that question from an advertiser and like you feel like you're on the spot? Like it's a quote unquote objection. Practice how you can just ask a question and get them talking again. The person asking the questions is in control. You'll also find that sometimes a really good ad sale, listen, like I said, there is a reason they took that meeting, and there's a place that they want to go, right? This advertising is going to enable something for them. It's going to enable more customers. It's going to enable them to, make more money and hire that person so they can step back. There is something that they want that is not just a business problem, it's a personal problem. And this is when you're really getting into like elite sales, when you're really trying to understand what is the thing that they're trying to do that they think they have to do and how's it mapped to help them personally. Because if you can really understand that, then you can really get behind them. And if you can help them, you have a duty to help them. So anyway, all the way back to reality here. Joe says, people think of us for breakfast, but we do a lot more than that. Also, we're celebrating our 35th year anniversary. We want to let people know that we're around. Been around for a long time. So these are, pretty understandable items here. So the next thing we're going to do is imagine. So while Joe's talking, I'm thinking about what is it that we can do? What is in my media kit that I can use to help Joe? So I'm going to imagine what I can do to help him get some attention. How can I show off what Joe does? Make him look awesome. So if he said that like people think of us for breakfast, but we do lunch things, I'm thinking like, well, what if we get some like big pictures of his sandwiches and his wraps and all the things that he's proud of and get that out in front of our audience? And, if it's an expert, I want to make him look like an expert. How do I really show this guy off and, or this person off and show what they know? So if like that media kit is holding you back, I just want to walk you through something really quick. So we got our product pricing troubleshooter here. There are a couple things when it comes to having a compelling product for an advertiser. Anything in your media kit, anything that you're going to float by somebody, it has to be simple, it has to be unique, and it has to be specific to the advertiser's problem. So simple meaning they have to be able to understand it. Unique in that it has to be something ideally that only you do. And this is one of the real problems in publishing right now, is that our media kits are all pretty much the same, right? Yeah, you have different audiences, but what product do you have that's particularly compelling? Why should someone work with you instead of Facebook or Google Ads or something like that? So simple, unique, and specific. If something in your media kit or some product that you're going to pitch is unique and simple, but it's not specific to their problem, you're going to run into all kinds of objections, all the reasons that it won't work. They have to believe it's going to work for them. It's for their particular use case, which is why I like to ask all those questions and understand how can I really hit it out of the park for them. If it's simple and specific, but it's not unique, right, then you're going to get beat up on price. Right. So it has to be something that's difficult for them to compare price wise. If they've worked with somebody else and they say, all right, well, you got similar audiences and like you're doing the same thing as this person was, and like, they were half as much, they're going to ask you like, how's it different? Like, why is it more with you as opposed to someone else? Right. So you're going to get beat up on price. And if something is unique and specific, but it's not simple, right? Like you do it, nobody else does, and it's going to solve their problem, but they can't understand it. Then you're going to get into making them think and they're going to ghost, right? So it has to be understandable. A little way to think about your products here. Want to be in that sweet spot? That's where the Benjis are. All right. So now we're going to float some ideas by this guy. So I want to ask yourself, do you have a reusable template? Because this is getting into the secret sauce of what has worked really well for our customers, and even people who aren't customers of Broadsheet. Sometimes they'll have a Canva template or something ready to go. Do you have a reusable template so that if you're imagining things that could help this potential advertiser get pictures of those sandwiches, those salads, or whatever it might be, do you have something that you can use to basically give them a mock-up, right? Do you have something in your media kit that you can use for this? So what I like to do is all right, listen, do you have any pictures of your sandwiches, your salads, etc.? How about we get those in front of our audience, make them big, really eye-catching? I think it'd look awesome. And meanwhile, they're like, yeah, and I'm just floating it by them, seeing if it's something that you go with. And Annette, do you, how do you, during the sales call, how do you do this?
Yeah,
you probably have a slightly different process.
I have, yeah, since most of my customers are small and have their own idiosyncrasies, I like to just customize every response. I think about what their needs are, what their business is, and I typically, when they ask for rates, I get on the phone, ask them, get a little information, find out what they're willing to spend. If they're not sure, I give them, I offer them of something visual. Visual works really well with people when you first start talking to them. And I create 2 ads out of some of your templates that are on Broad Street. And I said, this is what your ad could look like in this zone at that price. And here's what your ad could look like in this zone at that price. And so they have something to refer to. And I said, and if you want other options, let me know. And here's our price sheet. I think that just makes it easier for them to process all the information. And then you're putting your best foot forward by suggesting ads which are going to be productive and affordable for them.
Right. Something I like to do on a call is I like to talk about what the product does and not the product itself. I don't say hey, we have this super snapshot thing. Again, I'm just saying what we got to do is get those pictures and get them in front of everybody. Hey, what we got to do is position you as an expert for everybody. That's what we got to do. And they say, yeah. Okay. So that's what they're agreeing to. So this is an example of what I sent them as a mock-up. I actually sent them a slightly different mock-up, but this was an early thing that we ran. And it was a picture of his wraps. And by the way, I had that wrap. It was fantastic. So I put it very simple. It didn't have to be perfect, and it certainly wasn't. But what I did is that I sent it over to them as a spec. So this last part of the LIFT acronym is I wrap it all up. I spent so much time talking to them, listening to them, thinking about what's going to work for them, that the last step, the part that we usually consider quote unquote sales, is all one step for me. So I talk about how I got started. I want to tell them about me, how I got started in this, why I do what I do, right? 3 things that make me unique. So 3 things, just like for me, and these can be different for everyone, is that I know marketing pretty well. I have a really good idea of what works and what doesn't work. And I will not sell anything that I wouldn't buy myself. And in that, I think you got the same philosophy. The products that we do are totally unique. Hey, that picture, the ad, that wasn't a banner ad that you saw before. That's because I know that, basically creatives that really make that imagery pop, that allow you to put some imagery in there, they do really well. They perform like 5 times better. I've been doing this. And the reason I do it is because I know it works. And then the last part is that I make it super easy on you. You don't have to put the creative together. I'll do it. And I'm also going to make sure that not only do we get that thing live, I'm going to check in throughout the campaign to make sure it's still performing. So I'm basically in his corner of the ring, making sure that all right, listen, you work with me, I'm going to make it super easy. You don't have to think about it. No friction. Then we're going to talk about timeline and pricing. Just for everybody who talk about timeline, Annette, you do the same exact thing. 3-month minimum. Anything less, you're throwing your money away. And what's your talk track for that?
I tell them that in order to get front of mind and visibility and brand recognition, they have to have a consistent ad over a certain amount of time. The only time I kind of endorse short-term ads if there's a call to action, if it's a time-based event or something happening on a particular day. But for general business ads, I say 3-month minimum. And if they're a first-time advertiser, I usually give them a break because I want it to work for them. And I know they're, maybe going out on the, I don't know, proverbial ledge, giving us, putting faith in us and investing their funds. So my philosophy is to give them a break the first couple of months, make sure it works, and fine tune it along the way and make them happy so they're repeat customers.
Cool. So the way I like to present that, and I'll say you have an idea of how long you would want to run for it. At the absolute minimum, it should be 3 months. 6 is better. 12 is the best, because what you want is you want that steady drumbeat. You want people consistently seeing you over time. You don't want to see I'm here today and then I'm gone next week. Right? You want people seeing you consistently. Build that brand, build the awareness, and we're going to be changing out the creative over time. So I just ask them and they'll say, okay, if they say it depends on pricing, that's fine. But normally it's 3 or 6 months. They'll say, oh, let me start with 3 and then we'll do 6. And that's okay too. When it comes to pricing, you want to make it easy. And this is we don't want them to think. And I know you want to think, a lot of times you say, all right, well, let me send you a proposal afterward. And that is a way of doing it, but it's going to cut down. It's going to create friction, more work for them, more thinking. And say, listen, I'm going to make a recommendation. You do the performance option and you do the budget option. I do the same thing. You want to be in the main column on Red Bank Green, you're going to get the most performance. You're going to do great there. If you're going to be somewhere down the sidebar, that's going to be more of the budget friendly option. So I'd say we got the performance option. If you want to be you want people to see you, you want to be front and center, you want those sandwiches to look amazing, right? What you want to do is you want to be in the main column. It's going to cost $500, right? As an example. And then if you want to be in that sidebar, we kind of do want them to think twice because it's there, and it is good for folks who, are on a tight budget or are really just kind of wading in. But I think if you want to make a good impact, every business owner has been through this where they cheaped out on something, and we all have cheaped out on something, kind of shot ourselves in the foot, wish we just spent, the extra money. We've done that before. So we say, let's make it really easy. You have the performance option, main column, you're getting an amazing response. We also have a more budget-friendly option in the sidebar. The performance isn't as good, but you will be on the site, it will be live. And I like to break it down to 2 options. The cheap one or the one that's going to, a little more expensive, but it's going to do really well for them. Give them the option, give them the choice.
Yeah.
How do you like that strategy?
One thing they often ask, when you give them an option like that, 2 options or 3 options, well, what's going to work better? Or what's going to perform best? What's going to have more eyeballs? So my response is, well, bigger is always better. So it's location on the page, size of your ad, and messaging, and then they know what the parameters are.
Right. Yeah. There's 5 things just for everybody. If you really want to bring performance to the advertiser, size of the ad, number 1 driver of click-through rate. All right. Any imagery like real estate agent, home contractor, whatever imagery, country club, whatever imagery you can put that ad, that's going to drive performance. The call to action is important too. What are we asking the user to do? Do they have a reason to click? Dynamicism is another one. So is the content changing, right? And then also the position on the page. That's actually number 2. Where is it going to be on the page? Where is it going to be on mobile? Giant drivers. Those are the top 5 drivers of performance. So anyway, I sent over the mock-up. I put together a mock-up. You can see he has a famous bacon and egg flavored bagel. And imagine that with bacon and eggs on it. It's mind-blowing. So anyway, I sent that over. And I said, hey, this isn't the final thing. Here's the mock-up of the creative. And we're going to keep it fresh and run it with different messaging throughout the campaign. Next step is knocking out the agreement here. Again, super low friction. If you were to click on that link, that'll take you to a page where all he's got to do is type in his name. Right? I just want something that kind of outlines exactly, that says, okay, he was going to do this. And then lastly, the payment link. I used a platform called 17 Hats. It ain't pretty. It does the job. You could also use Stripe. And that's it. I make it super simple. Doesn't have to think about it. So he ended up saying that, he liked it. And if you are in need of an ad sales agreement, that's an important part of it. Now, some people just go on the verbal, yes, the handshake. That's fine. I keep it super simple. I just do one page. There are terms I wrote myself. Is it legally binding? I don't know. I know I'm not going to court over it anyway. Normally you're never getting litigious over something like this. That wasn't the exact one that I sent Joe here, but long story short, he was running. We also put some images of his bagel shop to celebrate his 35th anniversary. Absolutely loved it. You the man. So Outbound. I'm going to start to wrap it up. Outbound is just adding a little something on top of inbound. So if you do not have a CRM, and you don't have to start with a CRM, keep it simple. Keep a few people, maybe 10 people that you would like to talk to instead of a meeting with. And at the point where you kind of have a system down, you'll probably want to get what's called the CRM. I think it's like customer relationship manager or contact relationship manager. One of my favorites, so simple, plugs right into Gmail. If you have Gmail, it's called Streak. It's kind of like a spreadsheet in your inbox, and you can email a whole bunch of people at once, keep track of like who's where. These are the people I haven't talked to. These are the discussions, the meetings, proposals. So you can use something like Streak, but again, start simple if you're just getting into this. And then you have an outbound email. So this is an example. Hey, Ned, I'm the publisher of Red Bank Green. I've been a fan of your work for a while. My neighbor Cindy had your team remodel a kitchen. I was like dropping a personal note. I think we can do a really good job for you. And would you have time to discuss this week? We'll probably have to follow up. This is just an example. A more classic Larial style email. Hey, Ned, I'm the publisher of Red Bank Green. When I talk to business owners who have marketed before, they tell me that they're frustrated. She likes to bring in some of the emotion. And they're frustrated because they post on social media, but they still don't get much attention. Right? Can anyone relate to that one? Post the big story, like it's like crickets. When they've tried boosting posts or running banner ads, they don't know if it's working. And they just need someone to take it off their plate and do a good job. The number of times I heard that, I just need a turnkey solution, especially from the bigger outlets. So does that sound relatable? Actually, we have a version of this at Broad Street, obviously for not ads. And this is actually one of our best performing templates. So it speaks to that, like that frustration, because really, Lariel built it on some sales trainer that influenced her, who goes all the way back to the greatest salesperson of all time, I guess. But emotion is what gets people to, kind of make that decision, react, and move. And then, of course, when it comes to outbound, we're going to have to follow up. So keep it simple. Did you see this? Really simple. So it requires persistence, probably multi-touch, email, phone, in person, patience, and positivity. Never give up. In the early days of Broad Street, I resolved to email somebody every week. Every week. I was going to keep it simple. It wasn't going to be automated. Every week until I got a response back. I ran to that person at a conference and like, Kenny, I've been waiting. I thought for sure they hated me. They said, I got to talk to you and my team. I've been getting your emails. And thank you for being so persistent, by the way. Which I like when you get that compliment. On average, people respond after about 5 attempts. Annette, what's your favorite like outbound mode? Do you like email, phone? Do you swing by?
Email and phone, but mostly phone. And if there's somebody new in town, I will swing by, walk in, case the joint, and find out what their vibe is, what their business is all about, and then talk to them about advertising and see if they're interested. Typically, a newly opened business is overwhelmed and they can't think about it, but it's good to make that initial contact. So, 3 months or 3 weeks down the road, when things have settled down and they are willing to talk, they know who you are, and you get on their radar.
Yep. So anybody, and this is true. So if somebody reaches out to you, this is true. But even if they answer your email, you reach out, there is a reason that they answered that email. So even when you're the one who reached out to them, don't feel like you have to perform. Like you got to put on a show. Like, oh, that I reached out to them, like, now I got to pitch them. No, no, no. We go right back to lift. We're going to listen. Tell me why you took the meeting today. Let's just start there. And, maybe they can say, well, you emailed me. And be like, well, when it comes to marketing, like, did some of that stuff resonate? And just start a conversation. It starts with the tiniest little thing and you turn it into a bigger conversation, right? And then just get them talking. More they're talking, the better it is. Again, you're gathering information and you're learning more about them. And people actually kind of like it when they're talking and not you. They don't like sitting through a presentation. So even if it's outbound.
And you can put them at ease, establishing some, base of commonality, shared interests. And so you don't come off.
And get a sense of, there's different personality types out there. Some people are really rigid. Some people are really quiet. Some people are like more, chatty. Kind of get a sense of like what their flow is, because you talk to enough people, you kind of can work with almost anybody.
Yeah.
So just to recap, all right, first thing we're going to do is listen, right? We got some good questions there, a little question cheat sheet and a few slides back. We're going to imagine what we can do for them. We're going to float an idea by them. We get better and better at this the more we do it. And then we're going to transact. A little bit about me. This is how we work. We're going to do, me and Annette can do like a quick role play to understand. So you can understand how this works. Because right now you're like, okay, this is all good, but now I need to turn it into something real. Like, how do I do it? And something I always thought sitting in on these sales webinars or even listening to my own, wouldn't it be really great if like we could just hear a real sales conversation? By the way, I've been recording some of my sales conversations at Red Bank Green. Something that if you haven't seen, I have a website, blog, livingonaprayer.io. I talk about the growth of Red Bank Green and some of the different things, challenges, etc. I've been recording them for eventual publishing on Red Bank Green so you can hear what real local sales conversations sound like. And if you've been in it for a while, again, you can take away something. But if you're new to it, then it can be really helpful. All right, takeaways. So in the chat, what is something that you've heard that if you could just share that one thing with somebody else who is in it, who needed some advice, who wasn't able to make the webinar? What is the one thing that you heard today that you felt like was really good and you would want to spread that around? Annette, what do you think? There's something in this presentation that you really like.
What I really like is your questions. Like, what do you do better that nobody else does and nobody knows about? And what do you think your competition doesn't do as good as you? And what questions you most get asked by your customers, because that kind of will inform how you should craft the ad pitch, the ad call to action.
Right. So actually, I would ask everybody, my favorite question is, what are the things you hear from people the most? What do people ask you? Questions you hear over and over. Every single business owner, expert has heard them before. What do people Google before they end up talking with someone like you? All really, really important information. If you work with lawyers, doctors, dentists, professionals, if you work with business owners who are in a really niche industry, like ask them, what are the things you hear over and over? So, people say, oh, listen, I'm looking to get my basement finished, or this person finishes basements. What are the things people ask? I'm like, cost. Pricing is a giant one. Everyone wants to know how much they should cost. So, I might put together an ad and say, this person, Joe, how much should your roof cost? That's like pretty much the ad right there. And then we could probably drive a lot of performance on that. Let's take a look at the chat. Simple, specific, unique. A lot of
people get it.
Thank you, Tommy. The person asking the questions is in control. The agreement and payment go together. So tell me what's up. Love that. And again, silence is golden. You talk about the price. Hey, it's going to be like, you want the performance option, 500 in the main column. You want the budget option. Which one sounds good to you? And then shut it. Don't say anything about discounts, anything like, a lot of times when we feel nervous, we start to fill airtime. Don't do it. Why'd you take the call? Don't give them time to think. Ask lots of questions. Cost and value. All right, perfect. So should we do, Tommy, I think we should do a quick role play. All right, Annette, let's keep this to about 5 minutes. I want to open it up to Q&A and on time. But this part will be really good if you haven't really seen what a sales conversation looks like, or you just want to hear how we do it. And by the way, let's just do it. Let's just actually ask the folks in the chat, any advertiser vertical or type of advertiser you would like us to try this with. We're just going to make it up. And I could face plan a couple minutes, totally. So any advertiser verticals you'd like us to try this with, and Annette will.
We were thinking of doing a sports club or an exercise venue, real estate, HR, home builder, luxury product, YMCA.
YMCA. How relevant. I've been talking about YMCA
Mhm.
lately. So, restaurant, lawn care. Real estate's a classic. That's pretty applicable.
Yeah.
Annette, you want to be a real estate agent?
I'll be a real estate agent.
You probably worked with millions of them, right?
Yeah. 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 So
All right.
this will be an inbound then, right? I'm going after you and to find out what information I can get. So, hey, Kenny, I'm Annette. I'm with Keller Williams Real Estate, and I see that you have some advertising for homes on your page. I've seen some agents advertising. Wanted to know what options are available to me.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, no, tell me what you might be interested in. Why you're thinking
Yeah,
about
well,
advertising.
I'm kind of new to Montclair. I moved offices from Milburn to Montclair, and I just want to get my name out there and establish myself. I have some pretty good credentials, a good track record selling homes, and I need people to know I'm here. I'd also probably want to know how I could advertise specific properties that I have listings for.
Right. When you say you have pretty good credentials, what do you got?
Well, I've sold everything from apartments and townhouses to multi-million dollar mansions. I can work with a lot of different people and meet them where at the level that they're at and make them feel comfortable and ensure a smooth process.
For a town like Montclair, what kind of do you envision it being more apartments, like single family homes, and is there like an average price range you think is most applicable to Montclair?
Well, there's a kind of a large range because it's a diverse community. I would think most of my business is going to be single family homes, and prices start around 500, 600K and go all the way up to 3 million.
Got it. What would you say like the average customer who works with you or the one that you envision working with you?
Yeah, I'd like to get kind of the young first time homeowner, first time buyer in the seven to eight hundred $1,000 range, because that seems to be what young couples coming over from Manhattan into the Jersey suburbs are looking at. And there's a lot of value for those people coming from New York where it's so expensive.
Right? What are some of the things that like that demographic, what do they want to know normally? Like what kind of information if you're just talking to one and they're just asking your advice, like what do you think they're likely to ask?
Well, it's all about lifestyle because they're not just buying a house, they're buying a community. So they want to know about schools. They want to know about pet friendly, parks. They want to know about exercise and recreational activities, restaurants, and culture and music. And I think
Right. What about
that's one thing Montclair has going for it. So how do I put that into an ad?
right? Well, there's that. I mean, then that's Montclair, but like what do they want to know from you? Like what are some of the things that I mean, they can learn more about Montclair, but like what part of your expertise do they specifically want to learn about? They say like, "Hey, listen, how do I even get started?" Like it just seems like the market is red hot. How do I even where do I start in Montclair? Is that something you can
Yeah.
see him asking?
Yeah. Though that's a hard question to answer because everyone's needs are sort of different. But in terms of what I could offer them is a good knowledge of a good lay of the land knowledge and kind of an orientation, a lifestyle orientation. I'm just very friendly and open, and I'm not pushy. So I think I'm going to make anyone happy if they come with me.
Right, definitely.
But there's a lot of
Um,
intangibles there. So I'm interested
what
in
would
making that first contact.
what would you personally say to somebody like as to why they should work with you? Like I guess you're friendly, you know the area pretty well, but what's something that like if you could pick three things, like what is it that good reason that they should work with you?
Honest. I think about your needs first, not mine.
Mhm.
And I always do my best to make you comfortable and happy.
All right, perfect. We got a few different options, but I think that right there, the thing that you want to communicate to our readers, I'll talk about Red Bank Green or Montclair Green in a minute, but I think we got to get that out in front of the readership. Like we got to tell them who you are and like get them to connect with you as a person, not just as like another real estate agent. Does that
Well,
sound right to you?
yeah, that sounds good. So I know that you have some sponsored content. Could you do like a story about me?
We could now, but the
Or
thing is, what you want to do is you want to couple that like piece of sponsored content because we can do the sponsored content, but And that's really good. It's good for like long-term SEO and like people trafficking in from Google. But like, how do we get you in front of the audience like consistently over the course of months and maybe even link to that piece of content? Because, the post goes live and then a week later, where is it? Like, we want to keep resurfacing that.
Right.
So we want to keep that in front of everybody. So we can dive in more about you in that piece of content. But I think we really need something front and center that kind of talks about who you are. And then when people want to learn more or read more, then it links to your sponsored content.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. So how much are we talking about? What do you think this would cost?
Oh, yeah, definitely. So actually, do you
advertise for?
Generally, what you want to do at minimum is like 3 months. If we're going to do a story, we want people to see that for 3 months at a minimum. Best case, it's like 6 months.
Like
6 months. All right, perfect. So in terms of the pricing in that case, there's 2 places you could run. You could run in the main column. You're going to be after every story on the homepage, big, very visible. That's the best place to be. That's going to be $500 a month. And then in the sidebar, that's going to be $300 a month. That's like kind of if you're like budget conscious and you want presence, but you're not necessarily making a big splash. But you got the performance option and the more budget oriented option. What do you think?
Yeah, that sounds great. I think I'm going to go for the performance option. We're coming right into prime house buying and selling season, and I'd love to be front and center on your website for 6 months.
All right, perfect. All right, so let me just tell you a little bit about like how I work and kind of like what makes us unique. Well, actually, I'll kind of start myself. So I've been with Red Bank Green for about 10 years, or Montclair Green for about 10 years. I had the opportunity to take it over last year. I think it's a real gem. I think what we do for our audience, we serve almost 40,000 readers in Red Bank, Middletown, Little Silver, Fairhaven, and I didn't want to see it go anywhere. The owner was about to retire, and I said, you know what? I think Red Bank Green is something, Montclair Green is something that this town needs, and doesn't just need for the next 5 or 10 years. I told everybody we're going to make it last for 100 years, right? I really said that till 2106. The reason that advertisers tend to work with me is that I only sell what I would personally buy. I've been in advertising and marketing for a while. I know what works. I know what doesn't work. I know where advertisers feel frustrated, wasting their money with Facebook and Google. So I only run on Red Bank Green what I would personally buy. You'll notice that the advertising is not just standard banner ads, they're totally unique. And I make it super easy. I make sure that like you get the reports about the campaign, but I also make sure like if it's getting a little stale, that we're changing out the creative. And you'll see how I do that.
Great.
The way I work is that
which metrics do you track?
Oh, clicks, impressions, like where people actually came from, if they engage with the ad, like who are they? Where are they?
That's great.
And that's like something, again, that's unique to us.
Yeah.
But the way that it works is that after a call like this, if it sounds good, what I'll do is I'll put together a mock-up, give you a general idea. It's not going to be the exact thing, but I'll send that over in an email. And by the way, is this your phone number? Is this your cell?
Yes, it is.
Okay, cool. I'll shoot you over a text message with a mock-up. Like I said, it's not going to be the final thing. If you're thinking, okay, we're in the right neighborhood, then what I'll do is I'll send over an agreement and then a payment link, and we will get going from there. Does that sound good?
That's great. Yeah. The sooner the better.
All right, absolutely. Yeah, no, I'll send it over in just about like 45 minutes. Sound good?
Thanks. You've been very helpful, Kenny. Thanks very much.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was very nice talking to you, Annette. All right, bye. All right, I kind of like that. It almost, I would say it sounded pretty good. I made the sale. Annette, you should have stuffed me on that. You should have like shut me down.
What? What do you say?
What's that? I don't know. Just be like, yeah, let me think about it. Yeah, I need to talk to my business partner.
Oh, it's prime selling season. I need to get my face on your website. I was one of the intelligent buyers, okay?
Let's open it up to Q&A. We went pretty long. We stayed within the hour. We did the role play first time. That could who knew how that was going to go? Let's open the Q&A and answer any questions.
Thank you for hanging in there, everybody.
Oh yeah, and I hope it was helpful. Like if you thought it was helpful, you let us know. That role play could have probably been a different webinar, but I just really want to make sure that you guys had it. I didn't demo like the hitchhiker tier. If you wanted to do that, or if you want to check it out, go sign up. I put a video I literally made this morning, front and center, to show you how to create an ad on Hitchhiker. But let's answer some questions. Tommy, there are probably some questions at the beginning.
I've got them all screenshotted. I can read them out to you if you want to take these ones first.
All right. Karen says, okay, so what if you don't have the staff for specs? Maybe a similar ad. staff for specs. Actually, Karen, if you wouldn't mind like elaborating a little bit, I'm not sure I understand 100%. Michael says, are your mockups deliberately simple? Of course. Yeah, no, totally. Because imagery is always going to be a win. They always have images. After we hang up, I can go to their website and find images. I can go on Google Images 100% of the time. The other thing is like image, title, description, link, just something. And the client, they may have creatives that they want to run anyway. They say, this looks good, but we also work with an agency. We're going to send you the creatives. Like that'll happen too. But yes, deliberately simple, easy for them to understand.
I just usually go to their website and see what looks good and screenshot it and plop it into the templates. So at least they know you've looked at their website, you've looked at their business, and sometimes you get you find out some pretty interesting things, and then you can say, hey, how come this is really cool? Why aren't you advertising it?
Yep. So Julie says, how do you pitch when the potential client thinks you have low visits, 10 to 15K a month? Well, we are just talking about this about this yesterday, and we don't like to talk about visits. We like to talk about readers, and then it changes a little bit. Mm-hmm. So 10 to 15K a month means you probably have 5 to 10K readers, right? And that's a different story. What I like to do, especially when I'm talking to an advertiser, a lot of times it's getting them to understand the ROI. So it's kind of like, hey, listen, we're talking to a real estate agent like we just were. What is the value of a single buyer coming to them out of those 5,000 readers? And we're not just talking about the readers, right? We're talking about one of my readers. Well, guess what? They have grandchildren, right? Or they have a niece, they have a nephew. And have you ever gotten a recommendation? You ever got like that newspaper cutout from like a relative? It's like recommending something to you based on something they read in like that. But 5 to 10K, like talk about it as readers and then help them understand like, what is the value if you were to get a new client? Dude, just a single new client out of my 5,000. So that's the way I position it. I get them to think like, okay, this goes well. Then what happens? What if you don't have enough staff to create spec ads? So back to Karen. So Karen, like we make it super simple, and you're tempting me to demo Hitchhiker right now, right? So if you haven't checked it out, Tom, if you want to drop the link in the chat again, we make it so simple. Just watch the 5-minute video. Anybody can do it. You do not have to be a designer.
And Kenny's spec ads are so simple. And there's like 3 or 4 of my go-to, depending on what the image is, how they're formatted, horizontal or vertical. And really, I can put an ad together in like 2 minutes.
Chris from Dust Safety Science, right? He just dropped the link in the chat of a spec ad that he created prior to even talking to the advertiser and sent it out. I'm assuming it was cold, right, Chris? If you want to let us know in the chat. And sold 2 so far, right? One, I think it was like yesterday, the day before, and another one today. This is something that Uriah at Potomac Local recently did. We had this like exploding ad. It was like this new thing we did. We were excited about it. He sent it to an advertiser he always wanted to get on board and was able to bring him on. So just the ability to mock something up and send it over to him. How do you target specific communities or demographics? So that is more of like an ad server feature. That's like kind of, you can target by geography, but I like to stay away from targeting. And the reason is that it divides the audience and makes that number. Like if Julie were to do targeting and she's starting with 10 or 15K, well, now we're whittling it down to like, a few thousand, 3,000, 5,000. So listen, you never know who is in the audience. I know, for example, if you're hiring, how many companies struggled with hiring and staffing during the pandemic and still are, right? They might think, well, I got to put my postings on job boards, but everyone knows that like some of the best candidates are people not actively searching for jobs, right? There's a whole market of people that your advertising is relevant to that you don't think are in the target that you're searching for. By the way, Bob Sachs, like really, well-known, well-read newsletter. I'm not sure if he's still on the call, but Broadsheet is advertising. We promoted our webinar in Bob's newsletter, and we have outperformed. We're also promoting it on LinkedIn, Facebook, and Google. And Bo Sachs is outperforming our advertising with him is outperforming Facebook, Google, and LinkedIn by almost 10 times. I'm going to publish the results of that soon. I'm sure Bo would be happy to hear that. Anyway, so I could have said, I need to target only people who I've identified as publishers, sales reps, but you end up cutting out a lot of really good people. How do you explain to a client who only bought once that they didn't get good ROI because they need to be seen more, but their budget only allows? So I might actually kind of sidestep. I might be like, how do you know you didn't get good ROI? And they might come back with the famous, well, nobody mentioned I saw the ad, right? And that's kind of like, is that what people normally do? Have you ever done that in your entire life? Has anyone ever done that? Hopefully they don't say yes. But the truth is, like, people don't normally do that. I might want to ask them, how are they measuring ROI? Annette, you were just talking about a friend of yours who owns a gym who spends, what was it, $900 a week?
900 a week with
Google
ads.
Google.
And she's seeing nothing.
Right. How is she measuring ROI, by the way? She's just hoping people show up?
Hoping people show up and call. Yep.
So something, and this is actually true of advertising in general. So everyone should know this, is that very few people actually can effectively measure ROI. We measured ROI on promoting this webinar, right? I wanted to make sure I knew exactly where the webinar signups were coming from. But most companies don't actually do this. And most organizations locally or in B2B, they have no way of tracking what's called a conversion. They saw the ad and they eventually bought. So if you can find a way to help them measure ROI in some way, one of the things I like to do is, I like to collect newsletters or, basically build products that allow our publishers to collect newsletters and email signups. So it's something that their advertisers can use for their own purposes. Just something that gives them that sense of value. But ask them how they're measuring ROI. So I wouldn't answer the question directly. Annette, what do you think? What would you say if someone says, I didn't see the ROI, so I'm not going to keep advertising?
Well, it sounds
they need more visibility, but they only have the budget.
Yeah, it sounds like what Jasmine is implying is that this client advertised for a short time and they had a low budget and it was pretty ineffective. So you got to ask yourself, what's the nature of the business? Is it something that can be that there's a benefit to advertising in a short time? The answer is going to be no. But especially if it's a kind of a more intangible kind of business, like a medical service or a house remodeler, because not everyone needs that in the moment. Those are the kind of things that you build upon so that when they do need your services, they think of you. So I would want them to try it again, and I would give them a very low budget ad that would give them visibility over a long period of time. And even spread it out, like if they can't afford 6 months, they can only afford 3 months, then do every other week for 6 months. So at least over a continuum of time that people see the ad. There are ways to manipulate budgets in relationship to the time the ad is displayed. And I try and maximize the length of the ad with a small budget by letting it display at intervals every other week or 2 weeks a month, right, or something like that.
I was setting up, so sorry to distract you, Annette, if you saw my screen move. I was setting up for the next question. How often do you change digital ads? I have found that it's best to change them generally, if you're going to do it as a rule, like every 2 weeks. But I did want to show you, if I can get it all kind of on the screen. This was an advertiser in Red Bank Green, and I tracked the creative like by day. And I found out that like literally every time, and I knew this ahead of time, but I really wanted to do it. It was Mystic Lobster. The person who owned it was a doctor. So naturally, I called it Doc Lobster. And this was the ad that started out with over here on the left, right? And it got a great click-through rate. 0.5% is phenomenal, right? But after a day, it went up to almost 1%, but it started to trickle down. Over the course of about 2 weeks, the performance of an ad will go down. And then you got to do something to spice it up. So I went and put his lobster bisque up there, and then it popped back up to 8.85%. The thing that really killed it, though, so you can see, some things work. It generally always works, any update you make. But then there was kind of this like lull, and I was like, we really need to get this thing going. And when I put the menu on there, and I just said click to enlarge menu, oh my God, 1.5% click-through rate is outrageous. That is like the highest. I, of course, got on text message. I was like, check this out. He was like, amazing. I love it. So the little things you can do. I mean, at some point the ad is like really informational. It's not just like an ad anymore. In that case, I asked him, the reason we did that is that he said that people were surprised to learn that they had a kids menu and they had stuff other than lobster rolls. And I'm like, people are probably not showing up because they think, well, my kids don't eat lobster rolls, so I'm just going to get something else. They had chicken fingers and other stuff. So the parents can get the lobster rolls, the kids can get the chicken fingers. Everyone's happy. So we put that menu up there. It became one of our. And I had people say, "Yeah, no, I looked at their menu." People who are saying they're red bank green. Let's see, we got a time for actually we don't have any time, but we'll do one more.
Wait, just a second. Debbie want to know what's click to enlarge. That's one of Kenny's ad formats on the ad server.
Oh, I'll just show you basically how I did it inside BroadStreet. So this is the hitchhiker tier. We might be able to do this on this screen. Let's just say it was I'll just create an example ad. And I want to create a new advertisement. So you have access on the hitchhiker tier to this thing called the super snapshot. And this was the Mystic Lobster ad. We use this as the preview. So you can create basically an image text description link creative really quickly. And I just put the menu in place of this image right here. And in this headline, I said click to enlarge. So it wasn't a specific ad format. You could do the same thing in Canva. BroadStreet just makes it a little bit easier. And then kind of the preview. This is another advertiser, Red Bank Green, Triumph Brewing. And I can just go ahead. My screen is a little bit smaller because I have it presenting on a bigger screen inside our office. But I can just go ahead, drop in new images. I can find their logo if I need someone's logo. Like if I were to say, hey, you know what? This is actually a spec ad for Bagel Station or Red Bank. I can go ahead and search for that and I'll find it. Another place that we eat all the time, Surf Taco, go ahead and get their logo from somewhere. So we said click to enlarge. That was just the call to action in the ad. It could have been a special ad format, but it didn't have to be. So some people use mockups in their media kit. That's a common one. Just give people an example of what they might be working with. Romaine says, these webinars are the best webinars ever. Thank you. I take webinars very seriously. I want to make sure that anybody who shows up is getting, more than their 30 minutes worth of time. I want it to be something that really benefits you for a long time. Marcy says, what are the specs for the click to enlarge ad? Marcy, I'll follow up with you afterward on that. And Lisa says, how do I get the hitchhiker from the BroadStreet ad panel? So Lisa, if you're already a BroadStreet customer, you already have access to the super snapshot. So just search for that when you create an ad. Hitchhiker is basically it's only the super snapshot ad. You can't do anything else. It's all about helping us give you a lift to a place where you're making money and then maybe you can afford BroadStreet, for example. So get to that next place. One last one. All right, one last one. What do you think of exclusivity? So I'll tell you what. I don't mind it as long as we use it infrequently. So I will do it. And we do this for our advertisers on the top here. So we have 3 tiers. We have the community pillar. That's our person up here. We've got our local authority. There's our real estate agent. 3 questions that I asked them. And then we've got our local legends. I know at least a few people are just going to just rob these outright and it's going to show up in their media kit. That's totally fine. If you want to do that, totally do it. I want to make sure that everyone gets something good at this webinar. But we do exclusivity specifically for this top unit. So we will not advertise if we're working with like the YMCA, for example. We're not going to work with anyone else in health and fitness. Local authority, I'll do exclusivity within the category. So within local authority, I'm not going to work with any other real estate agents apart from Chris. And if he discontinues his work with us, then we'll kind of go around to anybody who we think would fill them in, kind of tell them that it's exclusive. And I like that. I like that kind of, not to create like a scarcity model, but that's kind of what it is. So like you might want to think twice if you're going to discontinue, for example. So that is pretty much it. I think we're going to wrap it up there. We will put together a recording, drop it on YouTube. Annette, thank you so much for joining us. If you want to catch me and Annette again tomorrow, we're going to be on the Center for Cooperative Media's webinar on media kits. And I also like to give a huge thank you, I should have done this in the beginning, to Johnny at Data Joe, who extremely generous in helping promote this, send it out on his newsletter, tagged us on LinkedIn, reposted it, shared it with a bunch of publishers. He kind of sets the standard in generosity in a lot of ways. So thank you to Johnny from Data Joe. Thank you all for showing up. And thank you, Annette, for hopping on. I hope everyone enjoys the rest of the day. I'll talk to you all later.
See y'all later.
Everyone.
Thank you.